Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Amazement deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because we just got an incredible new boss monster for this deck. Amazement Abomination Arlecchino, which is an incredible card to be able to play in this deck and a really cool new boss monster. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Amazement Abomination Arlecchino. This card is an incredible 2-of in the deck and is a really awesome boss monster because it has the ability that if you control an Amazement monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can add an Amazement family faces from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is an incredible effect to be able to use with this card because before this card, we really didn't have a good way to be able to get to amazing family faces, and we finally do, which is just such a cool effect about this card. It also has the ability that during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target one of their effect monster on the field with an attack more than 0, shuffle this card back into the deck, and if you special summon out the Amazement Arlecchino from your deck. Then change the attack of the targeted monster to 0, making it super easy to get over really powerful monsters that your opponent might have, while also summoning the original Arlecchino. We then play 3 copies of Arlecchino. Arlecchino is a definite 3-of in the deck, and this card is essentially like the multi-faker of the deck, which is really amazing. It also has the ability once per turn, you can banish any number of attraction traps from your graveyard and then target that many cards your opponent controls and destroy them, which is great to be able to pop multiple cards on the field. This card also has the ability if a trap card is activated, then you can special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field, which is great to instantly get this card on the field. And if your opponent normally special summons a monster, then you can target one of those face-up monsters that they control and equip an attraction trap from your deck to that target, which is a great effect to be able to do because this card basically directs the different monsters that your opponent has onto the rides that you want to be able to get the exact effects that you want off those cards, which is really amazing about this card. We then play 3 copies of the Amazement Attendant. This card is a definite 3-of in the deck and has a crazy powerful effect that when it's normal summon, you can set an attraction trap directly from your deck. And quick effect, you can target one of your attraction traps equipped to a monster and equip it to a different monster, which is a great effect to be able to use on this card to be able to move monsters off and on rides to help you get the exact effect that you need. We then play 2 copies of the Assistant. I feel like 2 copies is totally fine in this deck. This card is great because it has the ability to reveal an attraction trap in your hand and then special summon this card to your side of the field, which is a great effect. You can also use the ability to send an attraction trap from your hand or face turn field to the grave and then set an attraction trap directly from your deck in your spell and trap card zone, which helps you get the exact one that you need. But I feel like 2 is totally fine. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's really good in this deck as a 3-of just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then play 2 copies of Wannabe. Wannabe is really good in the deck, and I have considered bumping this card up to 3 because it's almost like a hand trap version of Prosperity for trap decks. This card has the ability during the end phase, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and excavate cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of your opponent's unused spell and trap card zones, and if you do, you can set one excavated trap to your side of the field, but you send it to the graveyard during the next end phase, and then you place the rest of the cards that you excavated on the bottom of the deck, which is really good because if your opponent has 5 unused spell and trap card zones, you get to excavate 5 cards off the top of the deck and then put the exact trap that you want on your side of the field. So this card is an incredible 2-of in the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Pot of Extravagance is really good in this deck because you really don't need the extra deck all that much in this particular deck. So this card is really good to help you just draw 2 cards. We then play 3 copies of Time Ticket. Time Ticket is basically like a better Rhoda for this deck, because if you pay 800 life points and then apply the effect depending on whose turn it is. If it's your turn, you add an attraction, or you add an Amazement card from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect to be able to add an Amazement card from your deck to your hand off this card's effect. If it's your opponent's turn, you set an attraction trap directly from your deck, and it can be activated this turn, which is a really good effect that you can actually activate the attraction trap that you put on your side of the field with this card's effect. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start off with a single copy of Viking Vortex. This card is awesome as a 1-of in the deck, and all of your attraction traps share a common effect that you can target an amazement monster that you control or a face-up monster that your opponent controls and equip this card to it, and depending on whose monster your attraction trap is equipped to, depends on the effect that you get, which is really cool because it basically is depending on which monster is riding the ride, depends on the effect that you get, which is just really amazing. If it's your monster this card is equipped to, then once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, negate the attack, and if you do, change control of that equipped monster until the end of the battle phase. And if it's your opponent's monster, when the equipped monster activates its effect, return it back to the hand, which is a pretty good effect to be able to use. We then play a single copy of Rapid Racing. Rapid Racing is really good as a 1-of in the deck because it has the ability if it's equipped to your monster, you target one card your opponent controls, change the equipped monster's battle position, and if you do, shuffle that target into the deck, and if it's equipped to your opponent's monster, increase the equipped monster's level by 1 until the end of the turn, and if you do, change its battle position, which is a pretty good effect, especially if your opponent needs a particular level for a Synchro Summon or an XZ Summon. This card can really stop them in their tracks. We then play 3 copies of Cyclocoaster. Cyclocoaster is definitely one of the best attraction traps in the entire deck, and this card has a great ability that you can target, if it's equipped to your monster, then you target a spell or trap card your opponent controls, and send both it and this card to the graveyard. And if it's equipped to your opponent's monster, you add an amazement monster from your deck to your hand, and if you do, send this card to the graveyard. We then play 3 copies of Horror House. Horror House is incredible. This card is actually my favorite of all the attraction traps, and is just a really good card because this card has the ability if it's equipped to your monster, you target an effect monster your opponent controls, negates effects until the end of the turn, being an effect veiler, or if it's equipped to your opponent's monster, change the equipped monster into face 10 defense, being a Book of Moon. This card is crazy powerful and a definite 3-of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Thrill Train. Thrill Train is amazing as well, and you definitely want to play this card as a 3-of because it has the ability to equip to your monster, you change the equipped monster's battle position, then your opponent chooses one attraction trap in your graveyard and sets it back to your field. And if it's equipped to your opponent's monster, you banish the equipped monster until the end phase, which is a great effect to deal with really big monsters that you don't want to deal with on the field to go in for game. This card just deals with those cards. We then play 2 copies of Family Faces. I feel like 2 is perfect in the deck. Even though your Abomination can search this card, I do like to see this card in the hand, which is why I play this card as a 2-of. It has the ability that you target a monster opponent controls and equip it with your attraction traps. Equip this card to it, which is just a really insane effect that you just instantly equip this card to a monster that's equipped with an attraction trap. And then while this card is equipped to a monster, you take control of that equipped monster, which is really good to just immediately grab one of your opponent's monsters, which is just really nice. And then while you control the equipped monster, it gains 500 attack, and then you cannot activate its effects, and it's also treated as an amazement monster, which is really cool. I love that about this card, and it's super good in this deck as a 2-of because it's almost like a Change of Heart or a Crackdown, so it's really good in this deck because it is searchable and it's just an insane card. We then play 3 copies of Dogmatica Punishment. Dogmatica Punishment is incredible in this deck, and as you guys have seen with Pot of Extravagance, you really don't need the extract. We just play a bunch of targets for Dogmatica Punishment in the extract, and this card is great at popping cards on the field, and it's great because you get bonus effects depending on the card that you send to the graveyard, because the card that you send to the graveyard is going to give you a bonus effect, so this card is definitely a 3-of in this build. We're then also playing 3 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance. This is kind of a flex spot in the deck. I really like this card in this particular build because it helps out a lot in this particular deck because it's basically going to stop your opponent from activating spell cards and slow down the game a little bit. This card is great because you only play 6 spell cards in the entire deck, and one of them you almost might want to activate during your opponent's turn in the form of Time Ticket. So this card is just really good in the deck as a 3-of, and it's just awesome to be able to slow down the game, especially being able to shut down pendulum cards because your opponent cannot set pendulum cards in the pendulum zone, so they just can't activate them. So this card can shut down entire strategies, and if you're going up against a pendulum deck like Super Heavy Samurai, this card just stops them in their tracks. So it's a definite 3-of in the deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Utopia. Utopia is really good because you can actually make this card extremely easily with just 2 of your level 4 monsters, and then you can actually overlay a copy of Utopia the Lightning on top of this card, giving you a 5,000 attack point monster to help you get over some really big monsters your opponent might control. So it's really just an awesome card to be able to put on the field as an option for the deck. It's actually the only non-Dogmatic punishment target that you play in the extra deck. The rest of the deck is just Dogmatic punishment targets. We then play a single copy of Mirror Logic. Mirror Logic is a really good Dogmatic punishment target because if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up card on the field and negate its effects until the end of the turn, which is a pretty good effect. We then play a single copy of Wind Pegasus. This card is great as a Dogmatic punishment target because it lets you banish this card from your graveyard, target one card your opponent controls, and shuffle it into the deck. We then play 2 copies of Garua. Garua, when it's sent to the graveyard, you actually get to draw a card, which is a pretty good effect. But watch out for this card with Pot of Extravagance, because if you activate Extravagance first, then send this card to the graveyard, you won't get to draw a card, because Extravagance will not let you draw cards for the rest of the turn. We then play 3 copies of Elder Entity Nist. Elder Entity Nist is one of the most common cards you're going to be sending to the graveyard off of Dogmatic Punishment because it gets you an additional pop on the field. So this card is great in the deck as a 3-of. We then play a single copy of Skull Knight. Skull Knight is great because you can banish this card from the graveyard and then pop a monster on the field, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Skull Wagon. Has the exact same effect as Skull Knight, but it pops spells and traps by banishing this card from the graveyard. We then play 2 copies of the Tri-Brigade Arms. This card is great because it's a 3,500 attack point monster, and when it does touch the graveyard, you can send a copy of Garua to the graveyard, which will get you a pop and a draw card, which is really insane. I love that about this card, and it's one of the best cards to send to the graveyard if you haven't activated Extravagance this turn, because this card will get over just about any card with Dogmatic Punishment, so it's a really good 2-of. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Amazement before, you definitely should try this amazing deck, because it's just super fun to be able to play, to basically just play all these different attraction traps and equip them to your monsters or your opponent's monsters, and it's just really fun. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.